What's up agents, Epic Slayers here, welcome back to a brand new Division video. Ubisoft recently posted an article on their website titled The Division, looking back on 2 years of live operations. Now I was reading through this article and it basically goes over how the Division was launched and how successful it was, the operations surrounding obviously the demise of the player base after a couple of months and now to where it currently is in this present day. And it made me think to myself, you know, where the Division was, what happened and where it is currently. It's got me really excited for the Division 2, but it's also got me really worried for the Division 2, which is what this video is going to be about, and I will do a separate video on what I'm excited for. So I thought today I would go over what has me worried for the Division 2, because there's quite a lot of stuff that I'm worried about, and I will sort of pick up on the main points. Now if you do want to obviously get involved in this conversation, then you can either head on over to my Twitter or you can leave a comment in the comment section below. Either way, that would be great. Drop a like if you enjoy this video and let's get straight to it. Alright agents, so if you want to check out the full article that this video kind of references and what made me decide to make this video, then you can do that by going into the description below. There will be a link, so please go check it out. Now, what am I worried about for the Division 2? I need to give you some context first before I go into the exact reasons. The first point that I want to make is that we did have an ETF for the Division. This was back in, I believe, May 2017. And this was basically numerous players were picked to go to the offices in Sweden of Massive. And over 4 days, they went into, from what I can tell, great detail about the game and what direction they were going in and changes and loads of stuff. I wasn't part of it, but I do remember reading a lot about it. And I'm sure any of you guys that were part of it, you'll understand that I think it was around 9 to 10 hours of grueling sort of information daily. And that was meant to obviously make the game as good as possible. At that point, the game really was struggling in its player base. Following that, we did have the PTS, which is a public test server. Now this is was first introduced on PC, and it's basically a separate server where they would put the update onto that server, and then PC players could log into there and they could test out the new updates for any bugs, glitches, whether stuff was just wrong, and just basically provide general feedback. And this was done over the span of about 4 weeks. Now we've had numerous PTSs, and recently we've had PTSs which allowed console players to get involved, which is ideal because I think console probably makes up the majority of Division players at this point. So it was good to have that feedback, and those PTSs were put in place so that Massive had a good idea over that 4-week period of how to make that update as best as possible. And you'll probably know from playing the Division, that's not always been great, but it has meant that we've had a lot of interaction with Massive in general, and we've been able to put as much feedback into the game as possible. You're probably thinking, well, they were great, and they were. I can't disagree with you, but it does make me wonder, with update 1.8 being, in my opinion, probably the worst balancing of gear to date, it does make me wonder what the point of certainly the PTS is having. Because I would say that, and again we're going back on the topic of Predator's Mark, Striker and Nomad, but it does need to be said again, these 3 gear sets are so overpowered in the Division right now, along with one said SMG called The House, that it really makes me worry that if Massive have been working on this game for 2 years and they understand, or you would think by now they understand how to balance gear sets, and with obviously the community feedback involved, why they are still having gear sets like this in the game, and obviously weapons like The House in the game. It really blows my mind, and that really makes me worry for the Division 2. We do know that the same studio will be working on the Division 2, and in this article towards the end they talk about how they can take all the experiences from the Division 1 into the Division 2 and obviously make it as good as possible. But that's what worries me. This game has had a lot of development over the last 2 years, and I would say that 1.8 again has probably the worst balancing in respective gear today. I would say that update 1.7 probably was the best the game's ever been for gear set balancing. I think at that point we had gear sets which were fine, and then we had the Ninja Bike backpack, which was obviously changed, and it made a massive difference in respect to diversity, if you remember back to 1.7. But with the introduction of classified gear sets, I really feel as though Massive wanted to implement something new, something fresh, but it was implemented wrong. And I would say out of the 14 gear sets, 11 of them seemed to be okay. But because we have 3 completely overpowered gear sets, that's what really worries me, and that is one of my major worries going to the Division 2, that we're not going to have gear. I assume there's going to be gear and leveling up and all that stuff, that we're going to have stuff that's just completely unbalanced. More so than that the game's had so much work on, and yet it still is as bad as ever when it comes to balancing of gear. Now, moving away from the gear set side of things, let's talk about one of the major issues with the game that caused a lot of people just to pack up and leave almost day one, and that's bugs, glitches and cheating. Now, I really hope that they implement some form of anti-cheat, some great anti-cheat, especially for PC players in the Division 2. Otherwise, you're going to lose, I imagine, a vast majority of the community. Now, bugs and glitches in general, I did a video yesterday about how Ubisoft and Concordia University have created this AI that should theoretically reduce the amounts of bugs and glitches that are in future games. I hope that would apply to the Division 2, and also when they are found, that in the future they are not only are they never to be seen again, but also corrected quicker, because at this present time with the Division, there's still bugs and glitches in this game that have been there from day one and are still here now. Now, I completely understand that there's just some bugs and glitches in this game that will never be fixed, just because they are, you know, baked, as Skillet would say, they're baked into the game, and the only way of resolving those issues is by having a new game, which is why I wanted Division 2 in the first place. But there's some other things that people will say are baked into the game, which is just not true. For example, heal delay. Now, this is something they said they've been working on for a long time. Every update, every patch notes, heal delay has been fixed. It's never, the only time it's been fixed, I believe, was update 1.4, and it wasn't fixed for very long, and then it went back to its normal ways. I remember feeling amazing popping your heal, and it worked straight away instead of taking 3 seconds. You know, registering bullets before the heal is basically what happens nowadays. The heal delay is so bad. And it's stuff like that which are still there to this day that really worry me. If the Division 2 comes out with bugs and glitches, instead of worrying about DLC and what's coming next, they need to put that aside, which they did do with Last Stand and Skirmish. I'll give them that, but before that they really didn't. They need to set that stuff aside, and they need to fix those issues, because a lot of the reasons, again, why the Division died off so quickly, I wouldn't say it died off, but it lost a lot of its player base, was due to those issues not being addressed straight away. And this article goes into detail about why. Obviously, a lot of the studio were working on, you know, stuff coming out in the game, and they've got a schedule, and it's been implemented for so long. So moving that aside just to work on what people are not satisfied with is difficult, but it has to be done. At the end of the day, there's no point of releasing DLC or upcoming stuff if you've got bugs and glitches which are going to ruin the experience for everyone, and the community would be much better if those issues were fixed day one. So outstanding bugs, glitches, hopefully there won't be nearly as many in the Division 2 as are in Division 1, but again, it does worry me. There are bugs and glitches still in this game that are outstanding from day one, and they've still not been fixed. So moving on, and let's talk about E3. Now, some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here. Some of you may not, and I'd recommend going to check out the E3 2015 release trailer for The Division to get some understanding here. But basically, when that trailer came out, I remember watching it and thinking to myself, wow, this game has everything that I've ever wanted in gaming. And I'm sure we know a lot of people felt the same way, and that's why the game sold more copies in the first 24 hours than any other game in Ubisoft history, like I discussed earlier. But what we also know is that when the game was released, it was probably about, I would say, less than 50% of what we expected. There was a lot of stuff in the E3 reveal which just wasn't in the end game whatsoever, and actually the E3 reveal, it feels like a completely different game to what was actually provided at launch, and that's not what I want to see in E3 for this year. Because E3 for this year, we're going to get the release for the Division 2 trailer, and I really hope that what we see in that trailer we get in the Division 2. Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if we get the same trailer from 2015, because that now, if you look back at that trailer, that kind of feels like what the Division 2 will be, as opposed to what we currently have, just a more polished, better version of this current game. So yeah, another worry of mine is that what we see at E3 of this year is not what we get at the final release. So really, when you watch that trailer, of course, be hyped as much as possible, but do not expect to see everything in that trailer in the release of the Division 2. Now lastly, I just want to say that I am a massive Division fanboy. I was from day one, I still am now, and I'm very excited for the Division 2. I will be following up this video with you know, reasons why I'm excited for the Division 2. But I made this video and it was hard because there are a lot of problems with this game, and I am generally worried for the Division 2. Now, I will happily speak out when I think something's not right, when there's issues with a game that I really love that I want to see changed. And that's why I will never, ever, ever, you know, talk about how a game is amazing if it's not, no matter how much I love it. The Division has issues, which is what makes the Division the Division. It's one of the reasons why I love the Division, because it's got so many issues that I've had to deal with from day one that are still there now, and whilst they're annoying, it's the Division. I just hope that the Division 2 doesn't stray too far from what we currently have, but it's just a more refined, polished version that everyone will enjoy. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, again, drop a like, it does help me out. Subscribe if you are new and you are looking forward to the Division 2. With that said, Epic out.